So much for the elaborative introduction. I'm really delighted to be here with the participants of Faculty Development Program. And I hope this session will be able to engage you in this scorching summer. And you will be able to sustain interest and you will have a takeaway from this particular session. Now, the topic, as you all know, is problem identification and topic selection. Have you ever surfaced any problem? Yes, house is open to answer the question. Am I audible to all? Okay. Now, how do you define problem? My simple question was that have you surfaced any problem? Yes or no? Okay. Then how do you define a problem? If you surface a problem, naturally you will try to ascertain what would be the causes of that problem. How are you going to find a solution to that problem? What will be the various steps which you will be following in order that you are able to have an apt solution to your problem? When I came, I found that these ACs were not working. No? Yes or no? So it was a genuine problem to all of you to be seated in this room since morning. But the organizing team has been able to find a solution to this problem. The electricity was fluctuating. Now they shifted the entire load on generator. Yes, tell me. So the cycle of problem identification, they were able to identify the problem, the diagnosis of the problem since the morning, that there is some kind of a problem that it is not being able, the electricity current, whatever is being here into this department is unable to take the load of this ACs. So they found a solution to that. And the solution was now they are moving to the generator. Now, if the generator will not work, then again a problem. Again, you will try to find a solution. So then satisfaction. The agenda is to understand that the dissatisfaction of a solution always give rise to another problem and finding a solution to that problem. And this is again a vicious cycle which motivates an individual to find a solution to the problem. I hope you all are aspirants of PhD or enrolled in PhD or research work. Yes. Now let's address some common issues and then we'll straight away come to this. How we are developing issue, developing issue. Developing. So, with whom do we compare ourselves when it comes to growth and when it comes to developed nations? Western countries. So, while Western countries are far more developed than us, because of what reasons? Better resources, good. Better education, research and development. Yes, I was looking for this term to be there from the audience. So obviously, research and development is an important component when we talk about the growth of the nation. And we look forward that these youngsters, the future of the nation, are able to contribute into the development. And that is why today we talk about 2047 Viksit Bharat. Yes, we are talking about development, wherein we are envisaging all kinds of challenges, and we talk about develop. Now, this research and development go hand in hand. Do you agree or not? Yes? How? If you agree, then you please justify the same. Fine. And then when we talk about development, every development brings a challenge, brings a solution, and brings further scope of further research. Earlier, we used to have landlines. Then we came to mobiles. Now we are talking about chat GPT and various other AI functions. So it is continuously technology is developing and continuously research is going. And in this entire thing, what is important? Again, research. And again, when we talk about research, there needs to be a problem. What are we going to do research for? If the current was able to take the load of these four ACs, there was no need to put it on generator. Yes or no? So necessity is the mother of all inventions. Do you agree or not? Yes or no? So the necessity is the generator of all kind of new experiments, new research, and new inventions to take place. When we talk about necessity, for you necessity can be different, for X necessity can be different, for Y necessity can be different. Yes or no? You would like to work in social sciences, one would like to work into computer science, other would like to work into life sciences, and so on. But when we talk about research, the first step, which is very crucial, very important, is what? Problem. Until and unless you have a problem, what are you going to look for a solution for it? I suppose in the morning you would have gone through the session of the introduction of research methodology and you would be aware of certain terms which I'll be off and on using into my address. When we are talking about problem identification, can anybody tell me what does identification mean? It's okay, nature of the problem. Identify. What does identify mean? Find. Okay. How are we going to find? By reviewing. Fine. Good. Nice. What else? Hmm? Pre-observation. Good. These are all sources. Having a fever and you visit a doctor and there are other patients also who are suffering from fever. Will everyone get the same medicine? Not at all. Depending upon your problem and completely diagnosing the problem and identifying the problem. That what is the root cause of the fever? Might be you are having fever because of jaundice. Might be you are having fever because of typhoid. Might be you are having high fever because of malaria. And every fever will have a different symptom. Yes, clinically it will have a different symptom and your body will have a different reaction for it. But the diagnosis of the doctor will hinge around regarding a good prescription which suits you and you get health. So therefore, there what is being done? A proper thorough problem identification is taking place. Then you would have heard of this term selection of a problem. We select a problem. What is the difference between the two? identification of a problem and a selection of a problem. Hmm? Okay. Hmm. So what do we term in statistically? How do we term this? Have you heard of the term heterogeneous and homogeneous? Yes? So when we talk about problem identification, it is heterogeneous. And when we talk about selection, as the people are saying this or that, or you're very clear that this is the problem, and then we are going for this further meta-analysis to it. Yes? Is it clear? Now, have you heard of these three terms? Discovery, invention, and research. Are they same or are they different? How? Discovery, invention, and research. Yes. Good. Fine. You are absolutely correct. But we really need to underline the difference between the three. When we are talking about the research amongst us, we are not talking about discovery. Yes, neither we are talking about any invention. Yes or no? India was also discovered by Vasco da Gama. Yes or no? And incidentally, he was taking a sea voyage and incidentally he discovered India. So was it a systematic way to do it? Was it systematic journey that he knew that there is a land? No. Please pay attention. Now when we talk about invention, do you know how this steam engine came into existence and who talked about steam engine? Yes, yes, somebody is saying right. James Watt. So he was observing that when the water into the utensil is boiling to a very high temperature, the lid on the water is making a movement. Right? It was his observation that when the water is boiling at a very high temperature and the covering lid of the water utensil is being having vibration, is moving up and down and is being lifted by the heat, by the pressure which is being generated by the boiling. Then he realized if this can make a movement, then he talks about and invents this steam. Now, discovery and invention is clear to everyone. They cannot be same. It is not a systematic process when we talk about discovery. And when we are talking about invention, it can be observation, it can be some procedure which is being followed to invent something. But when we are talking about research, it is always a systematic process. I wanted you to understand that research is something which is systematic in nature. Hence, what I talked about discovery and invention. How steam engine came into existence and how X-ray was discovered by Ronson in early, I suppose, 1885 or something there. Now, when we are talking about research, one thing is very clear that it is systematic in nature. Agreed, everyone? Yes? So, what will be the first step? Hmm? Identification. And from where are we going to begin with the identification? What would be the possible sources to it? Existing literature. So what are you going to do? You'll start away. There is multiple resource available online, offline. You'll start reading it? No. You will set certain criteria. So what would be those criteria? Time period, okay. What else? Hmm? Interest areas. So every individual will have a different interest and different domain, discipline, passion, and interest. Beyond this, what would be the other criteria for identifying or sources of problem identification? Research gap that you will identify. If it, hmm? Keyword, okay. From where will you come to keyword straight away? Observation, practical experience, hmm? Or some expertise, suggestion, or stakeholders, viewpoints, whatever. Have you read about the steps of research? What are the steps of research in the morning classes? Yes? Yes or no? The arrow key is not working. First thing we need to identify is that when we talk about research, it is something which is systematic in nature and it is a process. And when it is a process, then definitely we'll have certain steps to it, certain activities which we certainly need to follow in order to achieve our purpose. So basically, I wanted to talk about that when we are talking about research, it will hinge upon what? Problem identification. There needs to be a problem for which we need to find a solution. And in order to find a solution, first we need to clearly diagnose the problem. Got it? So then we are saying it is a process and it involves certain activities and it leads to solution. Just briefly go through this. Yes. Everybody is talking about review of literature. So how will you go to review of literature? You told about that you will identify your interest. Yes. Have you heard about the term variable? What is a variable? Any characteristics that has a tendency to, I can rename problem to variable also at given times. Yes or no? For me, for your study, you need to identify the specific problem, and that problem can be named as a variable on which you are working and you're trying to identify the effects, the cause, the solution for that particular variable. Or now, when you're talking about the identification of problem, in the foremost is the review of literature. So, when we are talking about review of literature, how are you going to go about it? What are the tools, techniques available to you? Papers, journals, thesis, which is available, all the written material which is available, both offline and online. So, what are you going to read? From where will you begin? Supposingly, you want to talk about motivation. So, how are you going to begin with motivation? First of all, you need to identify that you want to study motivation amongst the bank workers. You need to understand the population also. It is not only the variable. It is the population also which you want to identify for your study in social sciences. Once you have identified the population and you have identified the variable, accordingly you are going to make holistic study over the available review of related literature. I'm narrowing it down by saying related literature, but you will try to find out that what have been the previous studies which have been undertaken on stress and motivation and the bank employees. Again, I'm using two wider terms when I'm saying bank employees. Yes, when you need to be very clear that what will be your sample. You need to identify your sample also when you're talking about the identification of the topic. And then when you have thoroughly investigated the entire set of your review of related literature, you will try to identify the gaps. What are the gaps available? Now, when we are talking about this identification of problems, there would be certain existing theories on which studies would have been taken place. There would be certain area in which a lot of studies would have taken place. There would be certain unexplored area on which not much has been explored so far. Might be there could be certain dimensions on which solutions are there, but still there is lot of scope to study it. There might be certain area on which study has been done in certain perspective, but you want to do it into a different perspective. Yes or no? Certainly yes. Because you have to study for a particular period of time. It is not that you will go on studying for 10 years of now. When we are particularly talking about the thesis. When you are into the field of research, okay. Might be there would be certain other domains, other challenges which are encountered, and you further take it as a challenge and you move on further into that particular problem and you find a solution to it. Now, into this entire cycle of review of related literature, you need to be very scientific in your approach. You need to identify that what will be your variables of study. What will be your independent variable? What will be your dependent variable, if any? What will be the mediating or intervening variables? What would be the moderating variables? Supposingly, I say that the quality of food will determine good health. Yes? And I want to undertake a study on this. Then naturally, I have to identify that what are the nutrients of the quality of food which I'm talking about. What are the health dimensions which I'll be looking for? Yes. So in this, what will be IV, what will be DV? Quality of food determines the health. So what is IV? What is GV? Quality of food is what? Okay. Now if I say that the monthly income will determine the quality of food which I am going to take, then what will be IV and GV? Hmm? Fine. Seven variables will change. Yes or no? And what you want to study, what you want, or you have identified as a problem will determine might be what is IV for your study, would be DV for another study, as I cited an example right now. And there could be other various intervening variables like age, like disease, like environment, which might affect my study. Yes or no? So the agenda for this example was that it is not a thumb rule that what you are taking as a problem for your particular study can be a solution to other study or a problem. But real problem identification will certainly determine that what is the character of your variable and how are you going to proceed further with your study. Clear? Then, when we are talking about the review of related literature, what would be the next step? You have done the entire review and you have identified your variables. You are very clear that what are you going to go about into the conceptual framework that you have been able to identify the problem. When we talk about hypothesis formulation, what is hypothesis? Hmm? Repeat it. Tentative statement about the problem. Fine. I can say tentative solution to my problem. Whether age will have an effect over the health positively, or age might have negative effect over the health. Yes. So it would be guesswork to the solution, or it might be, in other terms, solution to what we are looking forward towards our problem. Now, clear hypothesis formulation is again equally important for the study. Until and unless you have jotted down your first step, that is identifying the problem and the variables, the next important step would be the hypothesis formulation. Once you are through with your hypothesis, the next important step will be what? Yes? Hmm? Research design. Okay, before we move on to research design, can we frame the objectives? Yes or no? Yes, we can do it vice versa also. I can say that for me, the climate change is creating a problem and is rising the temperature. This is my observation. This is the problem. Hypothesis can be whether this rise in temperature can create further extreme hot weather situation or it will be the same. Yes, the objectives will be certainly there because you will start with the objective and goals in your mind. When I'm talking about how we are going to identify the problems, once you have identified the problem through your this review of literature, certainly you will frame the objective and certainly you will talk about the hypothesis also. But objectives framing will take place how? How will you begin the objective statement? Because we have to talk about topic selection also. Generally, we started with two. But when we write a title, do we write it with two? An objective we can write to study the effect of climate change on the crop or on the vegetation. There, the objectives are pinpointed. But when we write about title, it is not beginning with two. Generally, students make a mistake when they write the title, they begin with two. So I just wanted to remind you that have you seen any book title with starting with two? Very difficult. No. So many a time students come across with the title of their thesis. They say to study the awareness of this scheme, whatever scheme in this particular area. So we have not to started with two. The objectives will definitely start with. Now, once you are framing the hypothesis, what else will you keep in mind? Tell me. Hmm? Yes, very good. The hypothesis, whatever you are stating, should be measurable. You should be able to identify that you are able to measure the hypothesis, you are able to identify the hypothesis so that you are able to achieve your objectives. Now, when you are talking about research gap, what will you do? Will you talk about a research gap which is being talked about previously, or you would be talking about some new aspect of the research gap? Yes, definitely going to talk about the research gap which has not been yet talked about or studied. Or if it's studied, would have not been studied in the frame in which you want to study that particular research gap. What happens these days, you would have heard about plagiarism also. Many of students, they look over the internet and they find the thesis on certain topic. And then they want to replicate the same. And there they make a mistake. There they make a mistake. Because it has already been studied. You will try to make certain changes to it. You will try to identify certain other variables, but somehow it will be termed as fabrication. So those who are looking towards and who have entered into the thesis writing or those who have entered into the PhD program should take note of it that they are able to identify something which is not existing. They need to identify something on which the study has not been yet taken or the under you are talking about some dimension to it. Now, once the formulation of the hypothesis takes place, as you people said, you are talking about the research design, that whether it could be descriptive, whether it could be exploratory, what are you going to talk about, how are you going to do about, next step would be your data collection. And now here comes the real challenge, which at the time of identification of the problem, you should be able to visualize, you should be able to identify you are going to research, whatever is your problem, will you be able to have pertinent data to it? Or you're talking of some lofty ideas which for which you don't have the audience, for which you don't have the required requisite material, for which you either you cannot do the survey, either you cannot go about the experiments. You're talking about something which is not measurable and for which the data collection is really tough. Now, when data collection comes, then also there are certain issues which these days one should take care of. Why everybody is not ready to disclose? Is everybody ready? If you send your 50 questionnaires, you will only get, I suppose, 10 questionnaires back. And this is a real problem, which every student, which every researcher is surfacing these days. And now with the advent of Google Form, what is the reliability, what is the validity, what is the consistency of the data is in a big question. So the problem identification should also understand, you should be able to identify that what would be the challenges of your data collection. And there could be various tools for data collection. Either you could go for a survey method, either you could go for schedule, or you could go for observation scales, or you can go for secondary data, wherein primary data is not required. There again, getting and having authentic secondary data also requires a lot of homework. If you visit an organization and you say that I want to collect a data, will you be given a straight away yes? No, there will be certain formalities which you need to certainly undergo. My research scholar was looking, this is a real example which I would like to cite. There is HCL in Lucknow. So we were working on some organizational behavior topic for which we approached HCL. Could you understand that I could have made around 5 to 10 correspondence through email, and then we could only get a sample of 30 questions to be filled, questionnaires to be filled. Because nobody wants to disclose their reality. But still, this cannot be a lame excuse that we don't want to go for research. Yes, but still we have to go for data collection. And data collection is the, I would say, when you talk about the authenticity, when you talk about the outcome, when you talk about the objective, again, data collection will play an important. How did you collect data? In your PhD thesis examination, the first and the foremost question, how did you collect your data? Tell me your experience about your data collection and what was the percentage of respondents which you were able to reach. Out of 500 or sample, you would only get 300, 250 complete furnished data which could be used for your research. Then when you are trying to build up your own questionnaire, which and you are talking about some established scale, it is fine. But when you are trying to develop your own schedule or a questionnaire, go for reliability and validity tests. Do some pilot testing, wherein at the first instance you will be able to identify, yes, that your questionnaire is able to aim towards what you are looking forward in terms of your problem identification and solution to your. And then comes the next challenge, that is data analysis. And I think that is why you people are all here, to have an orientation that how you are going further on this journey of research. Again, data analysis will play an important and vital role. Every step is very important when we talk about research, and we talk about it to be very systematic in nature. How many of you are aware of statistical tools for data analysis? SPSS, Smart PLS, R, NVivo, and lot many. But my sincere advice is, when you go for data analysis, it will not be that on one program, one run, you will be able to get your desired result as you are looking for. Yes or no? For that, you need practice. For data analysis, you need hands-on training and hands-on experience, that you are able to analyze the data for your study, for your research, or for your project, whatever. For there, you need to have hands-on training. And that will come by what? Time, devotion, and understanding of the statistical technique or tool which you want to use for your analysis into your research. How many of you are from social sciences? Many of you. So again, it is a great challenge for social science students because they find mathematics and statistics to be something alien. Yes, tell me. No, you don't have to be underconfident about it. Social science is the queen of sciences, and you need to understand the basics of statistics for any statistical technique to be implemented in your research work. Right from mean, median, mode to standard deviation to correlation, regression, mediation, moderation, and what. What you are doing into your research, you need to be thoroughly clear that what has been your problem and how you are obtaining that solution. And these are all tools to it. And you need to have a hands-on onto your tools. Finally, when the data analysis is there, you will certainly talk about the interpretation of it, the interpretation of the results, the findings, which are very important. And then obviously those findings can be your solution to your problem. And whatever we are going to study, it needs to have a meaningful contribution to your discipline. The first and the foremost thing when we talk about problem identification is that how are you contributing towards your society, towards your discipline? I may talk about rocket science. I may talk about nuclear weapons. I may talk about research of so many other things. But how my contribution is of research is adding to the existing knowledge, or how is it contributing towards the social domain? How is it contributing towards the human good is equally important in every. Many a time we find across various researches, which are thoroughly very nice research when we talk about logically and when we talk about its literature and when we talk about its knowledge. But lacks to the social arena and the social domain. Recently, we are talking about this. We all surfaced COVID-19. Lot of research has been done, and now we are finding so many versions to it that whether that vaccine had certain disadvantages or not, or whether it was perfect or not. Yes, the social benefit of any research is of utmost clear. As we have already discussed that what is the problem, you need to identify the problem by your, and it is the first and the most crucial step in any of the research. Any confusion there, beta? Okay, now certain examples to problem identification. The sales of any product is going down. What shall we do? That we can identify with this data available? Yes or no? What is the production? What is our sales? But we need to identify. The question is identification. Now, if I find that in the online class, which is going on parallelly, the session, the engagement ratio of the participant is low. Again, it is a problem. What method, what technique, what measures shall it be taken that we are able to enhance the participation of the engaged participants online? So in day to day, there could be various problems which you would be coming across. Yes, while on the way to this university, you will address certain problems. But can you go for it study? No. Going for the study for a problem, you require certain requisites. As we said, it should be measurable. It should be something which is adding valuable. Feasibility needs to be there. Originality needs to be there. If originality of your problem is not there, your study will not have any meaningful or desired result or contribution to the society and to your own knowledge and to your own domain and discipline. Clear? The importance of the problem identification. It serves to be what? It is the first step, no? We talked about it, it is the first step. So it is the foundation on which you are going to lay your entire thesis, entire study. So as we say, the problem identified is problem half solved. So that is why this entire session is being discussed about the identification of the problem. And then when we have identified the problem, and you have identified your variables, you are going to talk about focused research. You are not going to talk about something abstract. You will be pinpointed. Yes, this is the problem, but why student enrollment ratio is going down, you will be studying that problem. With NEP, the student enrollment ratio has gone down. If I say this is the problem. So what will be the solution to this problem? How are you going to study this problem? Definitely, you will visit schools. You will select some population. You will select some geographical area. You will try to identify that what could be the possible reasons that the enrollment of the students have gone down because of this new education policy. This is your problem, and then you are identifying that what could be the various solutions to it. Now, in this entire cycle, how would you go about it? Will you go to some distant place in Tamil Nadu? No, tell me. You will try to look over your own convenience. You will try to identify that what would be the possible, you could say, benefits to that particular place which you are selecting, and obviously how you are able to gather the data. Yes or no? You will not choose some distant location. You will be completely focused and you will try to identify the problem and you will try to estimate that what could be your possible sample and how you are going to target that sample. Therefore, again, problem identification is important because your variable, your sample is being identified because of the problem you have identified. Clear? Now, when we are talking about the importance of problem identification, certainly it is trying to achieve your goals and objectives. It is talking about innovative solution. Solution that already exists. Will it contribute to your research? Tell me. No, not at all. So definitely solution which you are going to offer after your problem identification is the most important thing. And that solution needs to be workable. It doesn't need to be something which is abstract, something which cannot be implemented, something which cannot be executed. Your solution needs to have an effective way out to the problem. And therefore, this entire exercise of sequential steps of research is going on, where we are talking about identification of clear and obviously resources. You will not think of something which is involving a lot of money to it, lot of other resources. Might be you're talking about supposedly SPSS and you don't have the access to SPSS. How are you going to interpret? Then definitely you will think that I don't have a authentic version. Let me move on to R, which is an open software, open source, in which I need to have a clear justification that yes, this source is online free available and I could use it for my study. Many a times we don't realize we use pirated versions, we use unauthorized versions, and when it comes to publication and when it comes to thesis writing, then also it is very big question that on what software you have done. There could be various resources involved in your study. Those resources also needs to be identified. And the optimal utilization of those resources needs to take place. These are certain sources of your problem. As you all said, your practical experience or exposure or observation. Yes or no? You are reading something and you have even observed that, and you don't have any observation and you read. What will be your priority? Both of them. Where you have your own personal observation. Yes, I have observed that with age, health goes down. And this I have been seeing in my family, I am witnessing in my social area. And let me talk about this problem, that what could be done that with age, health doesn't goes down. And there could be various studies supplementing your this problem, which you have reviewed over the related literature, that with age, the metabolism goes down. With age, there are various other body diseases which crops up. With age, the stamina goes down, and so on. Practical experience is very important and observations. Until and unless you feel hot, why will you switch on the AC? You experience it. You observe it. And then you, if AC will not work, you will switch on the fan. And if the fan also not work, the electricity is not there, then you will try to move out of the room to have a respite with the natural environment. These are only simple examples, but when we talk about research, the first and the foremost thing is your practical and personal observation and experience. As we said about invention, in the research, invention can take place, and in the invention, research can take place. As we said that James what observed what? He observed that the water was boiling and the lid was moving. And from there, we talk about the steam engine. So, into your day-to-day life, there could be various experiences through which you have observed or you have personally had an experience, and that can be the source of your problem, and you want to work over the solution for it. Clear? Then review, as we are already discussed about the review of related literature, and then we are talking about which theories? Hmm? Unutilized. There are various theories. Yes. Theories into your own subject in the arena, there will be various theories. Have you studied the effect of various theories in, have you studied all? No. You might take up any study, any theory, and you want to visit that theory with a different perspective. Like we could say that motivation, I cited an example. For me, might be non-monetary incentives would be working. If I get an appreciation, that will add on to my job satisfaction and that will enhance my performance. But for others, monetary incentive is required for performance. Yes or no? So there could be various theories, and those theories would be have studied into some perspective, but would have not been studied in certain perspectives. So you can take up any theory and you can work upon it with a different perspective. When it comes to education, there are certain models of teaching. When it comes to philosophy, there are various philosophical theories. When it comes to sociology, also there are various theories. When we talk about capitalism and when we talk about various other aspects to it. So it certainly you will derive some kind of a problem from the existing literature and the existing theory. Clear? Then we are talking about seminars and conferences. You visit various seminars and conferences, you attend, and from there you derive an idea. Okay, this has not been studied. This can be studied with this variable. I can add this variable and then identify that what will be the effect, and so on. And then stakeholders' feedback. If we talk about the education system, your supervisor, your research guide, can tell you about a problem. Look, this problem has been studied. We are going to have an extension from here. We are going to begin from this. We already have a solution to it, this, but let's now apply it in this format. So the stakeholders can be in many. If I talk about a corporate, we can talk about in a different perspective labor management relations. We can talk about the management problems, and we can talk about the labor and the trade union problems, and we can study from there. The trade union talks about that we are working overnight, but still we do not get that incentive. And it is not working and affecting our psyche and our productivity. It is affecting our job satisfaction. So there could be various stakeholders, and from there we can derive the idea. Then we are talking about informal sources, newspapers, and we are talking about radio. And now today we talk about social media and various other sources from where you can derive an idea, where you can identify a problem. Supposedly, somebody from political science can derive an idea in this current election that why only 50% of voting is taking place, how much percentage of nota is taking place, why people in this particular region are not voting. This can be an idea which this can be a problem which you identify through these sources. Then we are talking about your own intellect, your own arena of interest. Yes, this also I would like to talk about folklore. Do you understand with folklore? Yes, and certain satyam, certain rituals which are there into the society. How many of you are aware of the tribals in India? Everybody? Do you know they have certain tactics, they have certain medicinal plants, they have certain idea of certain other practices by which they can cure so many diseases. Has it been documented? No. Library is created now by the government initiative. But we are talking about how far we are able to preserve it. Then also there could be certain folklores which can be studied, which can be a source of a problem to us, which can incite that idea amongst us. Look, we are looking towards this problem, how we need to identify the problem and further we move for the. So this is all about the sources of your problem identification. Then obviously there needs to be certain, as in the beginning only we talked about the identification and selection of a problem. Identification will take place in a heterogeneous group, and when we talk about the selection of the problem, we are going to talk about the homogeneous. These are certain criteria like interest, the significance of your problem, the originality of your problem, the feasibility, whether it is solvable or researchable, current issues and ethical consideration needs to be taken while you are identifying and finally selecting your problem. It should not be that it is not feasible. It is not something which is very outdated, which is obsolete, which you are talking of, which doesn't have any impetus in today's time and in today's environment. It is something which is very insignificant as a contribution. Yes. So we discussed what is a problem, what are the steps in identification of the problem, how we are going to go about the problem identification, and the sources of problem, as well as the criteria for the identification of the. It is very important when we talk about the selecting of the problem. Researchers should have an interest in aspect of area. Supposingly, I tell you to study on um, and the sports person motivation, and it doesn't interest you. You will say that what is she talking about? She's telling me to study sportsmen and it's motivation. How is it going to help me? The task of identifying and doing a research needs to be there. And that will be only into your full interest area. Some other interest is being given to you, you will find it to be very burdensome. You will not be able to relate to that problem. Then you have enough funds to do your research, yes or no? If I tell you to go to Madhya Pradesh and you go to the tribal area and you administer your questionnaire or you administer your schedule there. The first question which will come from you, ma'am, what about the expenditure? Who will bear my to and fro journey and so on, my stay and so many other things? Yes or no? So whatever is your problem, you need to have requisite funds in order to administer your research. Then, as we have already discussed that it should be time bound and you should be able to have the utility of all the related literature review sources which are accessible to you. And finally, your outcome needs to be there for the society. Fine. We have already discussed once again, just reinforces this particular steps. What will be the steps? Recognize the problem, define the problem, gathering data, analyzing the data, and identifying possible causes. And then verifying those causes and then prioritizing your problem. Certain examples which you all should go through. High employee turnover rate in a specific departments are impacting team productivity and morale. How can the company implement strategies to reduce turnover and retain the top talent? This can be a problem. Can it be a problem or not? Yes? Tell me. This can be a problem for me. This can be a problem for you. But why the turnover of the employees is high? What would be the possible reasons and causes for the turnover of the employees? The company is giving good package. You are getting good environment to work. But still, why the company is facing the turnover? You need to identify the reasons and you need to find the possible solution to this. This can be also a problem. And your problem needs to be original. We discussed in the beginning, it needs to be feasible and it needs to be having a certain other ethical consideration. Clear? Then what is the second problem? The effectiveness of mindfulness, meditation, Meditation in reducing anxiety symptoms among college students. Will meditation work? Yes. For your anxiety and for other depression and for other mindfulness, this can be a problem. And we really need to identify that how effective it is, whether it is effective or not. In social sciences, there are certain problems which have been previously studied, but you will start with a different perspective and you will try to contribute it with a different solution. And that is how you are going to contribute towards the knowledge of that particular business. This is a small case study. I want you all to go through this case study. So I have written the identification and the analysis to it for your convenience, because in every online or offline lecture, the first thing which comes from the participants is that we need the PPT. So therefore, I try to put everything on the PPT so that when in your future reference, you are able to relate everything. Now, what is this problem? Can anybody tell me what is the problem in this case study? So you are reading it also. Yes, I want you all to participate. What is this case study all about? Hmm. There was some tech startup, and what is happening there? Hmm? Yes, why is the innovation not taking place at the rate at which innovation takes place? What does age diversity means here? This setup started with all the youngsters. Again, it was a homogeneous group which had only the maximum population of the youngsters. When youngsters are there, when we look into the organizational behavior perspective, they are very good at taking risks and they are very good at trying things. But though there are certain attributes which will come with age, the population which is higher into the age, which are older employees or elderly employees, they will bring more stability to the organization, to the group. They can bring and add on certain other experiences which can add upon the innovation and the creativity. So this case study is talking about the lack of age diversity which exists into the working population into the startup, and why that tech startup is not able to pick up with the innovation because they are lacking the mixed heterogeneous group, combination of old and young people who are able to create, contribute towards more of innovation and creativity into the tech. So these are certain few examples in real life situations, which gives us an idea as to how we are going to go about a research problem and what would be the possible problems which would be there, which are not identified and which have not been studied so far. We can go through and frame the problem and find a solution. Here, yes, I've got the. I'll another take you 10 minutes to wind up this cycle. What will happen after the identification of the problem? Title writing. How many of you are done with this title writing in your research work? Raise your hand. Good. Almost 70% is away with this. So what the things which you took interest? Let's make it more interactive. What all did you think while you were penning your title? Hmm? Tell me. Yes. Beta, what you did? Yes. Good. Yes. Yes. Good. And did you talk about the geographical location? Calculations there. You mentioned everything. Uh, okay, just the area. Fine. So now you can get an idea that when we are talking about the research and your title, what is the first thing which is noticeable? How will you, even if you go on Shodh Ganga, you visit, places, what do you search? Title first, then you go for abstract. Yes or no? So title needs to be correctly framed and needs to be realistic. Of what you are doing should be communicated through your title. In the very beginning, we talked about the variables. Those variables on which you are going to study should be identifiable from your title. As she said, the population which you are going to talk about should be able to be identified from your title or topic, whatever you say. And then finally, your methodology should be also very clear from your topic or title. Now, these days, we are talking about two fancy topics and titles, and we try to use jargons and we try to use various other catchy words to it, conundrums and whatnot. We are trying to make use of it. Let's be realistic. We need to be very simple. We need to be very holistic into our approach while we are writing our title and topic, and it should not be vague. Should not be vague, that wherein you are not able to relate with your research topic or your research thesis or your research study or your research project, whatever. As we have already discussed, it need not begin with two. Objectives always starts with. These are certain examples. Now you tell me in this, which is the most appropriate title. Can you make any sense of a comparative study? Title one. You are able to infer anything from the title one? Either the variables are there, either the population is there, neither the second topic. Now we have added the variable, again it is incomplete. Yes or no? What about the third topic? What about the fourth topic? And fourth topic, a comparative study of strength in male and female students of class 9. Is it a complete? What about the fifth comparative study of strength in male and female students of class 9 to government schools? Fine, this can be the title of the thesis. Tell me yes or no, Company. Title, comparative study of stress and male with female students of class 9 of government schools of India. Is it possible? Will you be able to touch upon India? Isn't it too exhaustive, too big? Tell me, is the sample achievable kind of thing? Then we are talking about a comparative study of stress of male and female students of class 9 of government schools of Madhya Pradesh. The comparative study of stress of male and female students of class 9 of government school of Indore. Comparative study of stress of male and female students of class 9 of Malwa Kendriya Higher Secondary School of Indore. Now tell me, which do you find the most appropriate one? How many say eight? Raise your hand. How many of you say the other? Nine, seven, six, fifth, which one? Nine. What about The seventh one, what is the difference between seventh and eighth? Hmm? Both of them to be appropriate. Madhya Pradesh, Indore, I want to make a study. For me, it is appropriate. I can manage that population of Madhya Pradesh. And I'm talking about the government schools only. I'm not talking about the private schools. Yes, it is not very narrow, neither it is very specific. But I will try to intervene the various government schools of Madhya Pradesh and will try to conduct a study. My sample size can be huge. When talking about nine, what is limiting out here, which is making it different from seventh and eighth? Yes, specific. Member of Noida is the higher secondary school of Indore. Pinpointed, very specific. Handful of students will I get, and that too when I'm talking about only that particular school. Fine. So the title needs to give you a complete impression as to how you are going to go about your studies. There are certain other examples, just not only in this. Right? Tell me six, seventh, eighth, ninth, tenth, what? Study of stress in relation to anxiety, tension, and monthly expenses of college teachers of Pradesh. Then ninth, study of stress in relation to anxiety, tension, and monthly expenses of college and teachers of Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh. What about this one? Tenth topic. And what about this seventh topic? So here we have been able to identify that what are the important aspects. Now, how we go about the historical risk? Somebody from history out here? Yes. During the British period, we have identified that what will be the period of our study and what will be the geographical. Here and in this, and they read it. Just a guess. This every slide she's talking about seventh and eighth, so the seventh and eighth only. I like nine. What is huh? Yes, work Wipro. While we are talking about the IT sector. So when we are talking about IT sector, obviously its results will be more discernible, more applied. And when we are talking about the experimental, we are having a lot of, we could say, sample on which the study has been done. And accordingly, we can frame various policies. We can have certain suggestions to the IT industry and so on. Clear? Yes, that's